Welcome to Reading the Bible Together, and today in Genesis chapter 32, we're preparing for Jacob's reunion with his brother Esau, but we end up having a much bigger meeting by far. Now, the passage begins mysteriously with Jacob encountering messengers of God, angels, and so he names the place Mahanaim, literally encampments of angels and of Jacob and his retinue. The text is telling us that as Jacob enters the promised land, this is holy ground. Be prepared for holy things to happen. Now, the first order of business is to prepare for the reunion, and the preparations are extensive. For the last time they met, Esau had promised really, to kill Jacob for swindling him out of his birthright and his blessing. Now, interestingly, Jacob, in his message to Esau here, refers to him as my Lord when requesting this reunion, a title of respect worthy for an older brother. But the reply he receives is terrifying. Esau will come all right, but with an army of 400 men at his back. That's not at all what Jacob has in mind. In fear and distress is how the Bible describes him now, which are not common states of mind for Jacob. There's no scheming that will get him out of this one. So, convinced that he's about to face his brother's homicidal wrath, he divides his people and belongings in two. If one is being attacked, the other one can head for the hills. At least then something will be left. And it is in fear and distress that Jacob, perhaps as a last resort, prays. It is, in fact, the longest prayer in all the book of Genesis. And not typical of Jacob, it's a humble prayer. I am unworthy of all your kindness and faithfulness, O Lord, he prays. And we can't help but agree. He closes the prayer, somewhat more typically, by reminding God of the promise that he'd made to Jacob to make his descendants like the sand of the sea. Hard to do that, O Lord, if they're all dead, is the implication. No, the big day approaches. Jacob prepares a lavish gift of countless camels and sheep and goats and the rest, which must have been equal to at least half his wealth. His servants are instructed carefully to present these herds one at a time in a lengthy procession, hopefully to assuage his brother's wrath by his generosity and to make this already impressive gift all the more impressive. Jacob will bring up the rear. The servants are to refer to Esau as my Lord. They are to refer to Jacob as your servant. And again, Jacob's making it clear, although I've cheated you, Esau, I'm here to make amends and to recognize you as the elder brother, as surely you are. Now a verse which is far better rendered in Hebrew than in English, because in English we miss the repetition of language. The New International Version says, Jacob tells his servants, be sure to say, your servant Jacob is coming behind us, for he thought, I will pacify him with these gifts I'm sending on ahead. Later, when I see him, perhaps he will receive me. And that is unquestionably what the verse means. But what the verse actually says in Hebrew is a bit different. I may cover his face with this present, which precedes my face. Afterwards, I will see his face, and perhaps he will lift my face. No, it's a good thing NIV doesn't translate it exactly that way, because it's kind of hard to figure out what's going on there in that direct translation. But that's a lot of faces. All of these faces, it tells us that Jacob is afraid to face his brother and what he had done to him. He hopes to conceal his own face with a shower of gifts and so save face. Well, Jacob sends wives, children, and gifts across the stream to prepare for the meeting. He himself, for safety's sake, remains alone on the other side. A typical Jacob move. If a slaughter commences, well, there's water between himself and danger and a bit more time to run. But what happened next, nobody could see coming. It's one of the more well-known events in Jacob's life story, but it's no better understood for all that. We read this. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. And then the man said, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." But Jacob replied, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." And the man asked, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he answered. Then the man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome." See, the name and the blessing are things together. Jacob said, "Please tell me your name." But he replied, "Why do you ask my name?" And then he blessed him there. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, "It's because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared." I saw God face to face. Now, what's going on? Who is this mysterious wrestler? We're not told. The text itself calls him a man. According to the prophet Hosea, it was an angel. For the sages, the wise and ancient rabbinic commentators, it was, of all things, and we don't have time to get into why, the guardian angel of Esau. But Jacob himself had no doubt who this was. It was God. And he called the place of the encounter Peniel, because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared. The one with whom Jacob wrestled implies as much when he gives Jacob the name Israel. For you have struggled with God and with man and have overcome. Israel, in this tradition, means struggled with God. It's the name by which his descendants will be known even to this day. Kind of. You see, I should explain that many hundreds of years later, after the death of King David's son, King Solomon, the nation was split into two, actually this way, by civil war, into a northern and a southern kingdom. The northern kingdom, comprised of 10 tribes, retained the name Israel. The southern kingdom, comprised of only 2 tribes, took the name of the larger of those 2 tribes, Judah. Now, this northern kingdom was destroyed in the 700s BC by the Assyrians, and the 10 tribes were scattered. The southern kingdom persisted, and the Hebrew people, as Abraham had been known as a Hebrew, the Hebrew people who had become known as the Israelite nation, after Jacob's name had been changed to Israel, ultimately became known to this day as the Jews, named after the remaining southern kingdom tribe. Is all that clear? Good. Hebrews, Israelites, Jews. Now, what's important to remember is that a name change often comes with a change in situation. Abram became Abraham, Sarai became Sarah, and now Jacob becomes Israel. He's a new man, and the covenant is continuing. So, Jacob, who prepared extensive offerings and bribes in order to see his brother face to face, instead has a face-to-face encounter with God. He would carry a limp with him for the rest of his life as a reminder of the event, but I think he would have remembered anyway. And with the breaking of dawn, he limps his way across the stream, no longer even capable of running if he had to face his brother Esau. And do you want evidence of Jacob being a changed man? Not only changing his name to Israel, but making his way across the water, not hiding behind all of the flocks and wives and children, but meeting his brother face to face. Well, if you're the sentimental type, brace yourself for chapter 33, because the reunion is a teary one, and we'll see you then.